Welcome to the sketchbook session. Usually I just start by going straight into whatever it is I'm going to talk about, but this one I'm taking a little bit of a different approach. I'm continuing to work on these robots. I'll actually end up doing 3 of them in this session, and you can see the 2 from the last session there as well. And they're actually part of the topic that I want to talk about. Not robots specifically, but just what's going on with my art journey specifically, like what I'm doing. I make videos here on YouTube. What else do I do? Do I have any kind of authority in the things that I'm talking about? And how can this be of use to you as the individual who's listening? If you've made it the 44 seconds into this so far, and you are listening to me ramble and you're watching my funky little sketches coming together, I'm hoping that there's some benefit to you. So why robots? Let's start there. There's a lot of different things that I could be working on, and there's a lot of different things that you'll see people working on here on YouTube. It seems like pretty girls and anime figures and figural stuff are really, really common, as well as kind of the grotesque things you see from Steven Zapata that are so wonderful in their own kind of FromSoft Elden Ring type of way that they come across. But I've chosen to work on these robots, and there's a couple reasons for that. I find them delightfully cute and strange, and I feel like you have to have some affection for the things that you create if you're really going to create them long term. And that perhaps brings me into the first point of all of this for me, is to be able to do all of this long term. I've spent huge chunks of my art career focusing on drawing figures and anatomy and landscapes, things that are good in their own right, but things that I don't necessarily find particularly interesting. The things that I enjoy most are robots and dragons and beasties and a lot of graphic design stuff and things that really build into stories or world building or ecology in some sense. I love fantasy and science fiction and video games, and a lot of my art ties into those kinds of things. And maybe for a while in my kind of art journey, I thought that there was some shame in that. Like I should focus on things that are more academic, more appropriate. And you know what? That's just not true. You know, if you are trying to make art and sell it, you do need to be aware of the people who are going to buy your art. But most of us aren't looking to sell our work, at least not primarily. We're looking to make things that we enjoy, and we're looking to get better. And if you only focus on drawing figures when really what you want to draw is cute little robots or cute little bunnies and cats and things like that, then you can come back to the figural stuff later. You don't need to focus on it right now. So I focus on the robots. They're what a lot of my sketchbook sessions have been built on, and it's because they're fun for me. They are a joy to work on 90% of the time, which is more than I can say for almost any other artistic pursuit. So yes, there might be things that are like wiser to focus on, especially as I'm building content on a platform like this. But to be honest, I think a huge part of what I want to get across is not just my art, it's the spirit behind it in that capacity, that there is so much to gain from working on the things that bring you joy, as opposed to only working on things that you think you need to know, things that are more academic. There is a place for that. I spent 11 years teaching art in a classical charter school, a school very much focused on classical literature and mathematics and science and all these really kind of high-end academia things. And my art education fit into that beautifully because it's just another piece of what it is to be human. I helped run the music department because they kind of fulfill that same need. They are skills that take an enormous amount of time to develop, but what they do is they bring joy to the person who works with them, and they bring joy to the rest of the world. And really, in an ideal society, that's where the bulk of our time should be dedicated, is the things that bring other humans joy and satisfaction. And hopefully they bring it to us as well. So do these robots lead anywhere? Is there any actual purpose behind them other than just, joy and putting videos together on the internet? Well, yes, there was an explicit purpose that I chose to do the robots. I have a story that I've worked on for a long time. It actually started as a musical album, kind of like Coheed and Cambria or Rush or any of these other kind of metal or progressive bands that had concept albums. I started writing a concept album where the characters are all small robots, kind of like you would think of in the movie Nine, where they're little puppets that contain human soul, something kind of like that. But they're little robots, and all of the songs are this weird mix of kind of pop culture references and humor and crazy levels of seriousness because we're dealing with all these existential crises. And you can do that when it's cute little things. We've seen that in a lot of cartoons in the last 20 years that deal with really heavy topics, and you can kind of get away with it because it's illustrated in some way. It's like people are just like, oh, we can deal with this. Think of Steven Universe and all the existential dread that comes from that. There's a little bit of that in Samurai Jack, which is kind of the way that I would want this to be put together. Avatar: The Last Airbender has a lot of these qualities, so that's kind of what all of these robots are tailored towards. I have tried very hard to detach myself from needing to make every single one of them a character or something that fits into it directly, because that puts a lot of undue pressure on myself. Pressure that in some cases will push me to do better things, but then in a lot of cases will push me to do worse things. And so I've tried most of the time just to make cute little robotic things. And what am I gaining from this? As I make each one of these, I not only become more comfortable just drawing, I become better at perspective, better at introducing personality. When I do the video that goes over the full series, the 100 of them, then you will see the progression of the first couple that are, kind of anatomically sound, but they don't look interesting and they don't have a lot of personality. We start getting even to these ones, these little goofy ones that I busted out so quickly. They each kind of feel like they have a distinct personality. You could hear the noises that they might make as they skitter or roll across the terrain. And so I'm getting better at all these things. And this is a story that I've tried to work on, that I've tried to develop the art for about 15 years. And most of the time, I try to develop these really ornate characters that are developed in my mind, and I have so much emotion attached to them. And so if the drawing doesn't land, then I feel very disparaged. I feel very discouraged by the whole thing, and I often will walk away and just do other things. So these robots have given me something to work on in the meantime, where every single one of them is not only fun to draw, it might be usable for content, but primarily it's pushing me forward and getting me closer to that goal of being able to illustrate these characters. Now, I'm almost done with the series. I set out to do 100 of them. I think I was working on number 93 or 94 earlier today. And so I will finish them probably in the next week. And I'll get to do kind of a cool video on how all that came together, which will be really fun. But I think I'm going to get a new sketchbook. I'm actually almost finished on the sketchbook that I've been doing most of these in as well. And I'm going to dedicate that sketchbook only to robots. And I think I'm going to start doing more of these, but trying to focus a little bit on the characters, on developing characters that are specifically for certain parts of that story. And maybe I'm now ready. But you know what? I might not be, and that's okay too. If I'm not ready for that part of my journey, I'll just continue making the fun things and just dip into some of those characters as time allows and as my skill allows. And that's the thing, is most of us are going to spend the majority of our art journey being in our own minds incapable of doing the things that we really want to do. I don't think that we're necessarily actually incapable, but our expectations for ourselves kind of rear up on one side and create this monster of disappointment that just keeps us from doing the things that we want to do. I know this, having worked with students for so long and being almost 40 years old. I've spent a lot of time doing this kind of stuff. Even so, I am not entirely immune from its effects. I am not able to fight it back all the time. I try desperately. And a lot of the things that I talk about on this channel, a lot of the struggles, are things that I've either struggled with or I've watched my students struggle with. I'm a little bit of a weirdo in that I don't deal with perfectionism as an issue. I don't worry about what other people say about my work. But I deal with having way too many ideas in my head, and they never live up to my expectations. I have a very oddly visual and constructive mind. And so I will create things and create expectations for things that I am never going to be able to put on the page. That is my struggle. And this particular series was devised to help me through that. I didn't intend to ramble for 10 minutes about the robots, but I guess there's a lot to say here, and I think it's really important. And I'm just trying to be open so that you know this is the reason why I've focused on these. And I think the biggest conclusion for you as a listener here is it's okay, whatever your robot is. If that's horses, if that's cute little flowers, if that's dragons, if it's bunnies, if it's cats, if it's dogs, if it's just boxes that have faces on them, it doesn't matter. Whatever your robots are, they pull you into the medium, they keep you moving forward, they help you to continue doing it with some sense of excitement. That's going to account for a lot of things. It's not going to give you all the skills, all the momentum that you need as an artist, but it's going to cover a multitude of things. And so I would encourage you to find whatever that is, and then whatever you do find, just be okay with it. There's no reason that it has to fit into someone else's expectations. It only needs to fit into your own. And again, this is not really coming from a professional artist perspective. This is coming from you who are listening are probably very much like me. You are a human who likes making things, would love to make a couple dollars from it here and there, maybe go professional at some point, but primarily you draw, you paint, you sculpt, you whatever, because it's good and it brings you joy. And I want to encourage you that if that is you, that is a fine place to be. You never have to go beyond that. But if you do have hopes of going beyond that, being okay with yourself, with your idiosyncrasies, with your individual loves, and then finding other people who share those is probably going to be the best way that you can move forward. I had a whole bunch of other stuff about like my individual art journey that I planned on talking about in this, but we are already at about our length for this video. So if there's anything specific that you want me to ramble about and talk about in the next session, let me know in the comments down below. I still read every single comment and try to reply to as many as I possibly can. So I love the feedback. So anything here that you're curious about that jived with you or didn't jive with you, let me know, and I will get back to you on those. Well, as always, thank you for your time. If you are looking to join an art community, we have a Discord server attached to this channel. You can find the information in a link in the description down below. Thank you to patrons Who, What, Where, When, and Pale Spider for your continued support. It really does help me keep moving through things here on the channel. If you are looking to support me here and what I do on this channel, you can get access to things ahead of time like scripts and outlines, get the ability to throw in your 2 cents on what I do next, what I talk about in these kinds of videos. You can check out the Patreon link below as well. Though, just watching, commenting, and being here is a huge help and support in and of its own right. Well, have a good one, y'all. See you soon.